Welcome to Young Money, the advice show for millionaires in the making. It's time for some $1 Million Straight Talk with me, Tracy Bissett. My hands-on experience and formal financial education make me uniquely qualified to coach about all things money. Each week, I'm going to tell you what you need to know now at the beginning of your earning curve. Basic and advanced financial concepts made clear, healthy money habits, and the missteps to avoid, and all the stuff that you can do to set yourself up for a financially fit future. You'll hear from experts, your fellow millionaires in the making, and me. Ready to lace up and start this week's financial fitness training? Let's do it. Welcome to the Young Money Podcast. I'm very excited. Today we have a very special guest, Mark Struczewski. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Tracy, thank you for having me on. It's a thrill to be here.
Well, I'm super excited you are here. I had joined you on your podcast, episode 798 on April 14th, and we had a great chat, and I thought that you had a lot to offer to our audience. Mark is known as Mr. Productivity. He helps people, notably entrepreneurs, deal with the overwhelm that disrupts their focus. In addition to being a productivity expert, he is the host of the Mark Struczewski podcast and is an online trainer. His strategies have guided entrepreneurs, CEOs, executive directors, business owners, business corporate specialists, all to get back in control of their time. And you can find out more about him by listening, and certainly all of his links will be in the show notes. So welcome again, Mark.
Well, Tracy, I am thankful that you are on my show to give your insights to my audience, and I'm thrilled to return the favor to your audience as well.
And so some of you listening might be thinking, okay, productivity, how's that going to help me with my money? And absolutely, when we are more productive in our lives, we can have more balance. We can work more if we choose to. We can actually get more done. And all of that leads to and contributes to our earning potential. So I know that some of the things we're going to talk about today, everybody is facing. So I think it's going to be a great conversation. And I'd love for you to start, Mark, by talking a little bit about your business and how you got started with productivity.
Well, it's a funny story because I'm fascinated by how people got into their business. And so I'm always reading books that talk about how this company was formed. My business all started back in July of 2005 when I was fired from my corporate job. And I decided to become an entrepreneur. And I didn't know what I wanted to do as an entrepreneur. So I said, well, I kind of like cool gadgets. Let me be a wedding and portrait photographer. Well, that failed. But one of the things that came out of it was, now remember, we're talking back in 2005. It's another lifetime ago. But everyone was doing direct mail because social media was brand new. Facebook was brand new. Twitter was brand new. The other ones we have today weren't around. And I remember going to one of ladies in my Bible study class who was a professional speaker. And I said, hey, could you maybe teach me how to be a speaker? Because I hated speaking in college and in high school. And so my idea was to go to groups and tell them how to be better photographers and maybe build my business. Again, the business failed, but my love for speaking, blossomed. And so I didn't want to talk about photography. I knew that. And I was like, okay, what am I going to talk about? I came up with a couple of topics. One was called How to Overcome Roadblocks on Your Path to Success. Note to self, if you're not successful, don't tell people how to become successful. Another one was How to Go from Hopeless to Hopeful. I don't know what I was on. I don't take drugs, I swear. I don't know where I came up with that one. So one day I was on the phone with one of my coaches, and I was kind of having a blue day. And he goes, what's going on? I said, I love coaching and training and speaking, but I don't know what I should speak on. He goes, well, why don't you speak about productivity? And I remember saying to him, I said, well, I don't know where that came from, but why would you say that? He goes, I know a lot of people. You are one of the most productive people I know. You're so gifted. Why don't you share that with the world? And the rest, as they say, is history.
Wow. I'm just thinking about that. And then you just picked up the mantle and you went with that. So
yeah,
very cool.
Someone a couple years ago, I think it was 2019, named Jeff Young on LinkedIn said, hey, you should use the hashtag Mr. Productivity. And so I got the hashtag, and I also got the domain MrProductivity.com for obvious reasons. Well, I don't understand it, Tracy. People can't go to MarkStruczewski.com. I don't understand what the problem is. So I decided to help the public and get MrProductivity.com, which just takes you to my website.
Excellent. And we've got that link in the show notes so people can find you there. Now, productivity is such a huge area, and there's so many different things that we could focus on. Why, in what you do, did you choose distractions in that area?
Well, 2020, 2021, and even before that, but now it's really getting bad where people are constantly inundated, not only just from notifications on their phone, but from people, their home phone ringing. We have deliveries all the time now because so many of us are working from home. UPS, the post office, FedEx, all these distractions are bothering us. And as I started looking and listening to what people were saying on social media, I said, wow, people are losing focus because as soon as you are distracted, you have lost your focus on the project you're working on. Go answer the door, whatever the case may be. Maybe your kids are home from school or being homeschooled. And I said, wow, it's become an epidemic now. Some of it we can control. Some of it we can't. We can't control when FedEx shows up at your house or the mail, knocks on your door with a package. But some of the other stuff, a lot of the stuff we are doing, we can control. So I started thinking about what are all the distractions we're dealing with and which ones can we control. And that's where I base a lot of my coaching on.
Excellent. And so what are the top 5 that affect all of us who are listening?
Well, social media is huge. And the challenge with social media is it's a double-edged sword. You have to be on social media if you have a business or a brand you're trying to build or a cause you're trying to promote. Okay. You can't do it just talking to yourself in your home. It doesn't work. But the problem is social media is not your friend. If your listener has not heard of The Social Dilemma, the Netflix documentary, go watch it tonight. If you're not a subscriber of Netflix, I'm not a fan of Netflix, go give them $15 and watch The Social Dilemma. I watched that. I deleted Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest. Facebook is on life support because on the show, they talk about how the former engineers and former executives say their job is to find out as much as possible about you so they can sell your information. And the one quote that came from the documentary that really haunted me is, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. And so you have to be on social media, but you can't spend too much time on social media. Otherwise, you're not getting work done. So what I think you should do is practice what I call compartmentalization and say, okay, I'm going to go on social media for this amount of time, and then I'm going to do something else. Social media should be part of your daily life, but it should not be the overwhelming part of your life, unless you're a social media manager, of course. Mm-hmm. So we have social media. Going along with social media, another one, and these are the top 2, they switch back and forth, is email. Okay, people say email is going to die, but yet you have to have email to be on Facebook or Instagram or anything else. So you have to have email. But the thing is, you don't have to live in email. So first of all, turn off all notifications for all social media and all your emails. Okay, you're not that important, Tracy. I'm not that important. The listener's not that important. We just need to be proactively in control of our time. Okay, so when you are going to plan your day, and I'm a big planner, as you know, from being on my show, that you say, okay, these times I'm going to be on social media. These times are going to be on email. Now, what happens is people are always checking social media and email when they're bored. Maybe they don't like the task or project they're working on, or they have 5 minutes, between commercials, whatever the case may be. That's dangerous because social media is set up to constantly feed you content, so you never leave the platform. Again, let me say it again. Social media is not your friend. And so you're talking, this is the Young Money Podcast, okay? If you are spending endless amount of hours on social media and email, are you making money? Are you doing things that are going to generate income? So in case the listeners going, well, what's this got to do with making money? Okay, how are you making money endlessly scrolling on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or Snapchat or LinkedIn? How is that making you money? And so when you spend an hour on Facebook, you can never, ever, ever get that hour back. And so what's the return on investment? I'm pretty sure your audience is really familiar with ROI. What's your ROI with spending time on social media or, reading email? Now, maybe you are getting ROI. I don't know you, but take that into consideration because that time you can never get back. So do you have any questions about social media and email?
No, I'm pretty clear, and I know what a rabbit hole it is when you get on there. So absolutely great tips. Next one.
Well, the next one I would say is other human beings, especially now where so many of us are working from home. We may have the in-laws, we may have our kids homeschooling, we have our spouse. It's really difficult to have all these people in one small area, and a small area could be an apartment, could be a house. Okay. You got to set up boundaries. If you want to get work done with all these people in your house, you've got to set boundaries up. So I would highly encourage you and your kids to set up an area where they work in, whether it's for work or for schoolwork. Okay. When they're in this area, what you do is you work or you do schoolwork. So you don't eat where you work. You don't study where you work. Okay. You don't eat where you study. See how these things are crossover in each other? You make sure that you say, best if you have a separate office, that's best. But if not, maybe you have a separate area of the kitchen or the back porch, someplace where people know that when you're there, that you are on the clock. Okay. And then you tell people in your household, hey, listen, when I'm here, do not bother me. When I'm here, I'm working. When you're there, you're in school. People don't set boundaries. And so it's just all this grayness that goes back and forth. And people, are you working? Are you studying? Are you free? Can I talk to you? And make sure not only do you set up boundaries, but make sure you go the extra step and you set up office hours. This is something a lot of work from home people don't do. They don't set office hours. It's not just for you. It's not just for your clients. It's for people in your household. Okay, I'm going to work Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. I take lunch from 12 to 1. Let them know. If it's not an emergency, make sure you define what an emergency is. If it's not an emergency, don't bother me. You have to let people know, because a lot, especially kids, well, if they see you there, they're going to say, well, Jimmy took my crayon, and you're trying to do a Zoom call with a client. So you have to set the boundaries. So that's other human beings.
This message is for all of the entrepreneurs and those thinking about entrepreneurship who are listening. I would love for you to join us for the Financial Foundation to Entrepreneurial Peace training, where you will learn the keys to financial basics and money mastery. This live, free 5-day training has been specifically designed for you, for those in industries online and offline who want to proactively change the way you're handling your money matters and navigate the current environment with success. If you want to make informed, powerful money decisions in your business, you do not want to miss this important live training. We are kicking things off shortly, so register now at bizpeace.com. All of the details are in the show notes, so you can get the information there, and I can't wait to have you join us. See you soon. Yeah, and I can imagine people who are listening, it might be their parents, it might be siblings as well, it might be roommates if you're in post-secondary right now. And so being respectful of them, but being respectful of your own time is going to be super important.
Yeah, and if you work from home and other people aren't used to, like you said, your parents, if they're not used to being where you're working, they may not understand that you're working. And you don't assume mom and dad know what you're doing. Tell them. You might have to tell them several times. My parents don't know what an entrepreneur is. They have no idea. I've been an entrepreneur for 16 years. They have no idea what I do. You're a coach, like a football team? What are you? They have no idea what I do. So you have to explain it to them over and over again. Eventually they will get it. The fourth thing is streaming services. Okay. There are so many streaming services. I couldn't even list them all on this show. The problem is I'm 55 years young. That's not the problem. But the problem is, back in the day, I remember when there was 4 channels. That was it. There was no cable, no satellite, no streaming. Now, anything to watch is on 24/7, 365. You can never say in the age of 2021, there's nothing on TV. There is so much content out there, you couldn't possibly consume it all. So be very careful of being one of these binge watchers. You're going to watch a whole season of show and you watch one show after another, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 hours. What's your ROI on watching, Blue Bloods for 12 hours? I don't know. Maybe you can do the calculations. And the fifth one, which people really don't think is a distraction, is themselves. We are a huge distraction for ourselves. We are getting in our own way. We are preventing ourselves from being our most productive selves. Why? We're not disciplined. We sit down to do a Zoom call and we have our notifications on and we have our phones face up. We have vibration mode enabled on our phone. I encourage everyone to turn that off and just you lose focus. So you're sitting there and all of a sudden you see out of the corner of your eye, someone texted you and you're like, okay, I'm going to turn my camera off and check the text message. So that's our fault. I tell you, if you turn your phone off, your phone won't turn itself back on again. We have to be the human beings in the world, and we have to say, no, I am not going down the rabbit hole. I'm focusing on the Zoom call, or I'm focusing on writing this blog post, or whatever the case may be. I will get to that later. Like I said earlier, you and I are not that important. Your listener's not that important, okay? We're just not. It can wait. It can truly wait. If it's an emergency, don't text me. Don't, send me an email. If it's my house is on fire, you come knock on my front door. That's important.
Very good. And absolutely. So much of that, I'm laughing because that's me. So I was doing something this morning and I had to get it done, but then I wanted someone to send me something. So I sent them a text, but then we got into a chat. So now I'm delayed getting the thing done I'm supposed to be doing. So I totally hear you. And I need to have more discipline around that. What goes along kind of with streaming services where we could get binge watching things is also kind of the world of video games. Mm-hmm. And we want to keep advancing. We want to play. What advice do you have for people who like video games and know that they've passed hours on end playing those? How can they change up that routine and be more mindful to think about things from a productivity standpoint?
Well, let me just say there's nothing wrong if you want to play games. Nothing wrong with it at all. The problem happens when it becomes your preoccupation. So I'm like, okay, you want to watch TV? Watch TV. You want to watch a movie? Watch a movie. Just be cognizant that you're doing it. A lot of people will go start playing a video game or start watching TV, and they're just doing it absentmindedly. Say, okay, and maybe you have to say it out loud. I don't have to do this, but maybe you have to say it out loud. I am going to play a video game right now. I'm going to play a video game for 60 minutes. I'm going to set a timer on my watch, and you actually do it. What happens is people just go, they turn the game on, they start playing, all of a sudden 5 hours have passed because they didn't set the intention. If you said, look, I'm going to allow myself to play 1 hour, then that's all I'm going to do. Now, some of your listeners may say, Mark, you're obviously not a gamer. You can't play a game for an hour. And I will say back to you, is the game giving you ROI, or if you is doing something else giving you ROI? This is a decision you have to make for yourself. I'm not saying don't play video games. I'm not saying watch television. I'm saying, is doing that activity going to propel you towards your goal, or is it going to pull you away from your goal? You need to make that decision on your own.
Absolutely. And I'm a professor at Centennial College in their business school. And we recently had some sessions with some of the counselors there. Surprising to me, but not surprising to them, one of the top 5 reasons why post-secondary students are going to see the counselors is for video game addiction. And so it can quickly slip into something absent-mindedly that you're doing to now you've got to do it all the time and it's consuming you. And I think with so many of the things you mentioned, like social media, like streaming services, we can go from it's fine as a little hobby, a way for us to pass the time, to it can become something we're addicted to. And then the negative things start coming from it. Certainly with social media, just feelings of insecurity, jealousy, not feeling adequate. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on when we are productive and we are in control of our routines in our life and we're the one choosing what's happening, not letting all these things happen to us. What are the feelings that come out of being productive?
Well, I want the listener to think about a time where you were utterly exhausted. Maybe you didn't sleep well the night before. Maybe you had a really stressful day. You did a lot of running around and you're really exhausted. And so you finally go to bed and you get a good, solid night's sleep. When you wake up, you feel much different. When you are in control of your life and you're productive, you feel that way all the time. You wake up and go, okay, I've got my rest. I'm ready to go. If you are not, if you're wasting time on social media or playing video games or watching TV, whatever case may be, you always feel like you're in a fog. It is an addiction, not just to video games. People want to know what's going on in the world every second. I mean, I remember back in the day when if something happened, you had to wait to the news at night. There was no breaking news. That didn't happen unless it was really horrific and they broke in on the soap operas, which I didn't watch, just for the record. But now if something happens in Moscow, you know about it 30 seconds later. It's like FOMO is real. People don't want to not be in the know. And when they find out, I very rarely watch the news. Like, how do you survive? I'm like, actually, I'm surviving better because I don't know about the news. I mean, you take what's happened the last year and a half in our world. We had COVID, the elections, social injustice. How is me watching that stuff all day, all night, all week long, all month long, all year long? How is that going to help me better serve my clients, better serve my family? It doesn't. And so I think people need to, like I mentioned earlier, compartmentalize. What is important to you? And what is going to move you towards your goals? Hopefully you have a goal or two or three or four. If you don't, we have to start there, because if you don't have a goal, what do you get up every day for? What are you aiming to hit? And a lot of people, sadly, I've come across, don't have goals. They literally have no idea. They get up and they're like automatons. They go to work and they flip the burgers, or they type the emails, and they come home. They have no idea what they're doing. And I think that's very sad. Everyone, no matter who you are, what color your skin is, where you're from, what language you speak, you need to have goals. Goals are super, super important if you ever want to be super productive.
Absolutely. And I can say with 100% certainty that those who are tuning into Young Money either have their goals already set, or they're in the process of figuring them out and they're trying to get some help to do that. So I know that everything that you've shared with us so far is going to be especially important for them to put into practice. Now, before I let you go, is there one final piece of advice you'd love to leave with the listeners, or something you've already mentioned that you really want to reinforce to make sure they're taking it in?
For the longest time, I was a big proponent of planning. And planning is a very important part of your productivity. However, I think we need to embrace the boredom, embrace silence. We are so inundated with noise and distractions and sounds and pictures all day long. We don't take time to just be quiet. And so what I want to encourage everyone to do is begin making micro breaks a key part of your day. Now, what is a micro break? A micro break is when you get up from wherever you are, studying, working, doesn't matter. You walk someplace quiet. And yes, I mean outside your house. If you're on the fourth floor, you walk down the fourth floor. Don't get on your phone. You don't talk to anybody. You don't think about what you're working on and what you're going to work on, the meetings you have to go to. You just be quiet. You close your eyes. You do several deep breaths. This is such a powerful, free thing that anybody can do as often as you want to do it, because it's no drugs. You're not taking anything in your body. You're just giving your body a chance to go, because we're constantly bombarding our body with information, and the body needs a break. So what I tell my clients to do is take as many micro breaks you need, especially if you're approaching the finish line. And we've all been there, Tracy. We can see the finish line, but we feel overwhelmed, exhausted. Take a break, take a micro break. And I get pushed back on this all the time. I'm like, take a micro break, come back, and you will not crawl over the finish line. You'll fly across the finish line. And everyone has done this, said, man, it was so hard to get up when I could see the finish line and go take a 5 to 7 minute micro break and come back. And I finished with so much energy and vigor. And I encourage people to do that. It's incredible. It will boost your productivity in ways you can't even begin to imagine.
Excellent. I love that. Now, before I let you go, what are you working on now, and where can our listeners go to learn more about you?
Right now, I am super passionate about my digital productivity coaching program. You can find this out at MrProductivity.com. That's MISTER, MrProductivity.com. What this is you get 2 90-minute calls with me every month. It's on the first and third Friday of the month. I will teach for 30 to 45 minutes, and then I answer your questions for 30 to 45 minutes. It's helping as many people as I can be more productive. So I've got a 12-step process to productivity that I share with my DPC clients. And I just want to help everyone live their best lives, because once you get your productivity in order, then you start having free time to play video games or go to the beach or go on vacation. Most people are working too much. And when I look at their schedules, I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't understand why you're working so hard. And it turns out they're so discombobulated when they get focused and they go, oh, I do have plenty of time left over to do the things I want to do. So I'm really super passionate about my digital productivity coaching program. You can find about that and my podcast, which is you're been a guest on my show, everything and more at mrproductivity.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I know that I am taking so much away. I loved what you shared about distractions, how we're so inundated and we're always off point from what we're supposed to be doing. You named them off: social media, email, other humans, streaming services, and then ourselves being the big culprits. And love the tips that you shared about how we can compartmentalize, how we can set timers, how we need to be able to set boundaries. And I think that for the listeners, if you put into practice one or all of these tips that Mark has shared, it's really going to set our lives up collectively to be a lot more productive and bring a lot more calm and peace and less stress into it. So thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to serve both you and your listener.
So there you have it, listeners. Mark Struczewski, Mr. Productivity. You can find all of his details in the show notes. Until next time, take good care and stay financially fit. Hey, thanks for tuning in. To all you millionaires in the making out there, if you love this podcast, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts to keep your financial fitness training going. Oh, and leave us a review. And be sure to visit 2 S's, 2 T's, financialfitness.com to take your free financial fitness assessment. Find out how financially fit you really are. See you next week, millionaires to be.